Yep, just started the recording. Yeah, it's up now.
Okay, thanks. So before we go ahead, the very important safe harbor statements. So basically, both the speakers and organizers are here with their own capacity. We are not representing any companies or a organization over here. And as a speaker, I'll be sharing my knowledge here, and I will not be completely responsible if the same product or the solution does not fit like for your company or for your solution. And please make any decision, like if you wanted to go and take MuleSoft as a product for yourself, please make a decision what is available in the market. So don't make a decision like what Salesforce or what the safe harbor statement, or we'll say that forward looking statement is saying that this might come in near future. So whatever the decision you are making, please make sure that you are making the decision by seeing what is there in the market and what the capabilities of MuleSoft are there currently that MuleSoft does support. And our ultimate motto is to learn together. So if there are any mistakes, please forget that. And I'm also here to learn with you. And there are rules. So we are going to record the session and we are going to upload the meetups within the 24 hours. You will get the recording on the same page of the meetup. So from where you joined, you will get there, you will get the recording and presentations as well. Question can be submitted anytime in the chat window or question answers, and I'll make it session interactive. Like after each topic which I cover, I'll try to take the questions from all of you so that we can make this session interactive that way. And one important thing is please give us the feedback. This is like really important for us. This is like a food, and if you give the feedback and tell us what area we need to improve, that will be really helpful for us. So this is the agenda that we are going to cover over here. Is we'll start from the authentication, like how we can authenticate with Salesforce, what are the different types of authentications available. We will also see when we actually go with what kind of authentication. Then we will talk about a very initial, or we'll say that simple integration, which is how we can get the data from Salesforce, and how we can get that data here in our MuleSoft and then use that data. In Sql queries, basically we are going to cover two things. One is like a normal query, and one is we are going to see as a dynamic filter, where we will pass some values on the top of the URL and we will see how to get that data. Then we will talk about how actually we can insert or we can create the data inside Salesforce for a particular table or object that is there. After that, we are also going to see a very important operation, which is upsert. That means if the record is there, then update that record. If not, then delete that. Insert that record. Then we will see how we can invoke the custom integrations. So basically, so far what we have done is like query, insert, or upsert. These are already provided solution by Salesforce. We don't need to make any custom development as a MuleSoft or Salesforce developer. But when it comes to the invoking the custom REST methods or Apex REST, there is some development involved which has to be done by Salesforce developer. That we'll be seeing over here. Then at the end, before question and answer window, which will be the final Q&A window, we are also going to talk about what platform events are, how to use that platform event in the MuleSoft, because in near real time, you will be mostly working with this event-driven platform and this query platform. These will be two important things, or we'll say that most frequent use cases that you will be using while you are working with MuleSoft and Salesforce integration. So before we actually go ahead and talk about what are the different types of authentications, we'll talk about what is the difference between authentication and authorization. This is the place where most of the professionals get confused, like what authentication is or what authorization is. So authentication is a process of determining where someone or something is in fact who they are claiming to be. So for example, you are trying to access a Salesforce, okay? You're trying to access Salesforce window. So there you have to be an authentic user. If your user exists inside Salesforce org, then only you will be able to take in inside Salesforce. And if you're not authentic from there itself, you will be basically thrown an error. There might be different kind of error messages which will be thrown to you, either from your browser if you're trying to log in from browser, or if you're trying to log in from some other interfaces like MuleSoft, the error will be thrown over there. And authorization is basically the process of checking if some user actually has the ability to access a particular resource or to perform some kind of operation. I'll see a very good example over here that I have found over internet, which is like a house ownership. Like if you are the owner, then you have the authenticity, like you are authentic person, you can enter into your house. Even your I'll say that spouse or your children, your parents can also get into the house, but there are some specific area of a house that no one can access it. For example, say that there is something called locker. You have some locker there, you have got some papers, those are really, we'll say that authentic paper that not everyone or not every member of the house can access it. That is somewhere this authorization comes into the picture. If you are authorized, then you can access that locker. If you're not authorized, you cannot access. So to be a part of authorization, authentication is must. You are authentic person, then only you can go to the authorization. If you're not authentic person, this authorization doesn't come into the picture. So this is a very I'll say important part, because most of the times it is asked like what is actual difference between authentication and authorization. So this is a pictorial representation which I try to put in terms of say that MuleSoft platform itself. So as a user, you are here, you go to the browser, you try to provide your username, you try to provide your password. If your username and passwords are correct, if say that yes, then it will take you to the MuleSoft Anypoint platform, which you can sign up for 30 days trial. And if that is not correct, immediately you will see access denied, like the username is not valid or the password is not valid. That kind of message you will get over the screen. Then if you are here, like say that your username and passwords are correct, then you are here under a MuleSoft platform. There are multiple services that you can access. So say that you are trying to access a production org inside MuleSoft Anypoint platform. Now here, when you try to access this production org, MuleSoft is going to check behind the scene. Are you an authorized user to access production org, or you are a user to only access the sandboxes? If it is says that, okay, yes, you are the authorized user, then you will be prompted out to a different window, which will be the production org, okay? Production environment inside Anypoint platform itself. If you're not authorized, again, it will say that access denied. So if you see here, to come up to this point, you must be going through with this authentication screen. So I hope this screen will give you more clarity on what authorization and authentications are. Now here, basically, when we talk about authentication types, these authentication types we are talking about inside MuleSoft Anypoint Studio. So we have mainly got five types of authentication types. There were more which has been deprecated now, so we are not going to talk about those. So the first one is basic authentication. So as it says that it is a basic authentication. It requires two things: username and password, your security token as well, and then authorization URL will you have to change it based on either you are trying to log into Salesforce org, which is a production type, or you are trying to log in an org which is basically a sandbox type, where you are actually doing the development. So now if we talk about when we can use this authentication, which is basic authentication, now here you see that you have to expose the password, right? You have to expose username and password. So if you are you are sure, or we say that if your Salesforce owner, like say the owner of your Salesforce org and the owner of your MuleSoft is basically both are the trusted, or I'll say that both are the same person, then you can go with this basic authentication. For example, for the demo purpose here, I will be using my username and password over here. Now I am the same person who is actually working on MuleSoft and the same person who will be working in Salesforce. So I am the owner of both the resources, MuleSoft as well as Salesforce. So then in that case, I will go with the authentication, which is basic authentication, where I can give the username and password, and I know that these are not going to break any security. But in real time, you might not be using this kind of authentication. Then we have got Auth 2.0. This is rarely used authentication. I haven't used for any of the clients. This kind of authentication requires, like this is more secure if we talk about from basic authentication. This requires a user intervention, or we say that what happens when you use this kind of authentication. You try to authenticate from MuleSoft, it will take you to the browser screen where you have to provide the username and password. Now here, you don't need to share the username and password with the developer. You just need to give, okay, these are the consumer key. The consumer key and consumer secret will be shared by Salesforce developer or Salesforce admin, and that person will be setting up the connected application there. Again, these URLs will be changing based on the environment that you are using. I will show you, like I will tell you which URL you need to use for production and which to use for sandbox. Scopes are something which you need to provide what level of access that user has. This is something which we say that this is something which comes in the part of authorization. And then resource owner ID, we don't need to worry about that. And these are some we'll say that MuleSoft things that we have. Then listener config is something which is when the browser will open what particular URL you want to redirect for the MuleSoft application. So this can be a localhost listener or some other we say that server where the listener is hosted, and from there you are getting. Callback path and authorized paths, again, these will be provided by Salesforce. So next we have got Auth JWT. Most of the time you might see this in your organization because this is really the secure from these two, basic and Auth 2.0. Here you don't need to provide a password. You don't need to provide anything. You just need to provide the username, and even that username, that user you can control from Salesforce. You say that this is the user which can be logged in from MuleSoft. So that is, I'll say that, more secure, and the controllability or everything can be controlled from Salesforce itself. Now here, this consumer key again comes from Salesforce with the help of a connected application. This is a key which will be provided by Salesforce. This key will be basically generated in Salesforce, and while you are generating, you will be providing a password for when you are generating the certificate file. So that password will be over here, and then certificate alias is something which is an optional, so you can leave as it is blank. Principal is something where you need to provide the username of your Salesforce org. So this username, if that username doesn't have access, like the Salesforce admin has not provided the access, this username will also not be able to access it. So Salesforce admin will basically give the access, and then only whatever the username you will provide, or the admin will tell, okay, this is the username that you need to use for principal. The token point is again going to be changed based on your type of sandbox. Audience URL will also get changed. Then we have got auth sample. This is again, we'll say that the similar kind of thing that we have just seen for JWT here. I think this is the same screenshot which I have put. So I'll show you how actually this sample look like. But basically there will be an XML markup. There will be an assertion that we will be using over here in MuleSoft in order to make sure that, okay, whatever the assertion we have got is correct. And then we can get the token from there. Then auth username and password is again something where you are you are sure that the owner of both Salesforce and MuleSoft are same person, or we'll say that you are completely sure about, like, you can share your credentials, because again it is going to ask your Salesforce username and Salesforce password along with the security token. Now this is there is one extra things that it requires is basically consumer key and consumer secret, because it is a part of open authentication. That's why it is requiring consumer key and consumer secret. So whatever the authentication which are part of open authentication, which is OAuth, those will be requiring either consumer key or both consumer key and consumer secret. So these are basically the different types of authentication that we have. And let's quickly see how we can actually use this authentication in our MuleSoft application. So I have already set up this complete demo for all the things that we are going to do over here but I'll show you how you actually can go ahead and add a connector for this, like, connection request. So to create a project, you can either click on this right click here in your package explorer and click on new, and then you select Mule project, or you can just click on this. You see here there is something, a little plus icon. You just click on there, like you just click on the drop down, then click on Mule project, and you can just give it a name whatever you say. So I'll say the test Faridabad, and you can select what runtime you want. So this is the latest. I will select the latest runtime, and I'll just click on finish. So by default, your project is going to look like this. There is nothing. So this is something which is your canvas. And this is the palette where you will get all the connectors. If you don't see connectors, you can add search in the exchange. You can add the modules. There are multiple things that you will see. This place on the left hand side, there you will be seeing your main mule files, your Java files if you have custom development, then some resources, some test resources, all kind of things here that you will see, and even the libraries that you are using. So if you see, currently we have got the listener, we have got Java runtime, then we have got servers and then sockets. Now, if you want to add a connection over here for Salesforce, so what you can do is you can just search for Salesforce. So as soon as you search for Salesforce, you'll get all the operations that we can perform using MuleSoft for a particular Salesforce environment. So now to do that, say that we wanted to query, which is a very basic operator. So we'll say Salesforce query, and just select that, drag and drop over here under your canvas, and just leave it. So as soon as you leave it, it is going to put something, and our flow is not happy basically. So you see there are some errors, even it says that 2 issues found. So under that here, under the query properties, you will see there is something called display name, which will be displayed over here. Then we have got connector configuration. So this is the place where we will be configuring our connection. Even if you don't want to configure from here, you can go to the global elements, and from global elements, you can click on create. And then here you have to search for Salesforce again, and you will see Salesforce config. Just select that and then just click on OK. Now here, if you click on connection, you have got basic authentication, and you see these are the 5 types of authentication which we were talking about. Now the auth SAML is something which was different. I think that is the same. So basically that is same, where you have to use consumer key and file and all those things. Okay. So we have to select like basic authentication we will be using over here. We have to provide username, then we have to provide password, a security token, and then authorization URL. So say that I'm just providing a dummy username over here, say whatever I have got. So basically this username is not valid. I don't have any username with this name. I can provide any password. Let's say that I'm saying MuleSoft 2021, and security token is something I will show you how to get that security token, and then authorization URL. So by default, it is pointing to production environment. So whenever you see login.salesforce.com, which is actually the production environment, if you want to connect to the sandbox where you will be doing a test development, so what you can do is you can say, okay, whatever it was like login.salesforce.com services, so and then it is a partner enterprise, and then 53.0. So we have to say, okay, HTTPS, and we just need to replace basically login with Salesforce. So this will become a test environment, which is your sandbox. If I remove this, you can see this is by default, it is pointing to production environment. Now there is something called test connection. So if you click on and your username and passwords are valid, you will see that there is a success message. But this time we will be basically getting an error message because that username and password doesn't exist even in Salesforce. So you can see here we've got the connection failed, invalid username, password, or security token, or user logged out. So basically this is what the error I was talking about, and this is basically the place where you are doing the authentication, the actual authentication that you are doing. So I'll just go ahead and click on cancel. I'll show you from my previous flow which we have. So I already have a connection which is in place, which is Salesforce Config. I'll just go ahead and click on edit. So this is my username, admin plus HRMS as techviews.org. And then this is my password. I'm not going to show this is a secret password. You have to provide security token in case you don't have added your IP address to your Salesforce org, but I will recommend to use it, always use the security token. Now, how you will get this security token, and let me just walk you through. So just go ahead, log into your Salesforce org. If you are new and you don't have Salesforce org, what you need to do is you just need to go to developer.salesforce.com/sign up. And from here, basically, you will be signing up for a free org, which will never get expired. If you are using it continuously, it will never get expired. And if you are actually not using it, then it will expire after inactivity of 365 days. So now once you're logged in here in Salesforce org, this is how it will look like. Just click on this, you're a user. By default, you don't see the picture. And then go ahead and click on settings. Once you click on settings here, you will see under this personal option, you will see there will be an option called reset my security token. Okay. I'm not seeing that option because I have already added the IP address into my profile. So as soon as I add the IP address, I'll not be able to see that over here, but that option will be over here, that you will see reset my security token. You need to click on that option. And once you click on that, it will ask you to click on the button called reset token. You click on that token and it will basically send the token to your email. And that token you need to use over here. And once you have provided the token, you need to change authorization URL based on what exactly you are using, like either or production. And based on that, you just click on test connection. Now, as this username and passwords are valid, and these are basically for Salesforce developer org, which act as a Salesforce production, I will see a message called test connection successful. So you see here, you have got test connection successful, and you click on OK. That's how basically you do the connection with Salesforce, which was very basic. We'll say that username and password. So I'll just take a pause, Pankaj, if you have any questions on the authentication types.
Yes, Amit, we do have some questions. Yep, it will be good. Like we can have some query. In between, like we have Prasant query from Prasant Vakte.
Okay.
Yeah, Prasant, yep, let me make you unmute. Okay. Prasant. Yeah, Prasant, you can speak up now. Yeah. Oh, okay, okay, no problem. So he's question like, how do we go to the Salesforce Sandbox from browser?
Okay, so basically for Sandbox, what you need to do is, let me show you. If you are in browser, what you have to do is, you just need to say test.salesforce.com, okay? Test.salesforce.com. This is the browser, this is the URL for your Sandbox. Here you have to provide your username and your password, basically your username and password, so that if I select this username, and then if I already have provided the password, and if I click on login to Sandbox, it will basically log me into my Sandbox org. So that is, okay, it is asking me to change the password, which I'm not going to do that. But this is my Sandbox org where I can basically log in. If you want to log into Salesforce developer or production org, then the URL is login.salesforce.com. So that is the URL that you have to use. And here again, login.salesforce.com, you have to just go ahead, provide your username and password. The screen and everything is going to be same. Now I'm also going to show you like login inside Sandbox. I'll say, okay, I'm just logging to Sandbox. This like the screen, or I'll say that the UI and everything is going to be same. There will be sometimes a differences when you don't have the changes over in prod. So when you are logged into Sandbox, you will see something called an identifier on the top, which will say Sandbox and the name of your Sandbox where you are actually logged in. And if you are in prod, you will see there are no identifier. That means you are either in developer or you are either inside a Salesforce production environment. So this is how actually you can also identify either you are logged in inside a Sandbox or a production.
Yeah, Amit, like I can also show that resets my security token. I have opened my Salesforce. If you want to open, share that.
Yeah, I think if you can show that, that will be
Yeah,
really good for the audience. Yeah,
yeah.
I'll
Let me,
just stop sharing.
yeah.
Are you sharing your screen? Yeah, you can see.
Okay, okay, you can see now. Okay, good. So, yep. So I just opened my personal account. Okay, and I went to settings from here. Okay, and then here like reset my security token. Okay, so I just need to click on reset security token, and then check your email. Okay, so this will be going to my personal email. Okay, and then that token we can use in our authentication. Okay, this is very basic. Yeah.
Yep,
Yep.
thanks. Thanks so much for this. I think now they will get the basic idea. Yep. So, yeah, I just shared my screen. Let me know if you are able to see that. I think you are on mute, Pankaj.
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
There is one more question from Hitesh. Like when going for the production, like a plain username and password is not the good way to go for the practice, right? So
Yeah, it is never a good practice to basically directly use that. You will be using secure properties if I'm not wrong, Bungles, and from that secure properties you will be basically accessing those. So basically, there is a concept of global property files in MuleSoft where you will be storing all your credentials, and those credentials you will be referring at different places where you want. And then your credentials you can definitely encrypt and then decrypt based on some security schemes. So that is basically an advanced part, so I cannot show you, but definitely the plain username and password is never recommended.
yes, yes, that should be the encrypted one as well. Okay, and yeah, lots of security. Like we also like following up the Salesforce Auth JWT credentials. Okay, and we are having the consumer key, and consumer key is also in the encrypted key. Okay, and one more question, Amit, like from Parveen, like out of the five authentication type, okay, like what is the use case, like when to use when? I think you already explained. If you just have a summary. Uh,
Yeah, I think I've already explained. I'll just get back over here.
yeah.
So basic authentication and auth username and passwords are best fit whenever you are sure that your username and passwords are you are okay to share your username and password, or I will say if the person who is basically working with MuleSoft and the Salesforce are both, the owner is basically same. That owner is going to log into Salesforce. That person is also going to develop the MuleSoft. Then it is good to share the username and password and use any of these, either basic authentication or auth username and password. Even in that case, also I will recommend using auth username and password, because that way you can also basically control which user can log in access to Salesforce. Auth 2.0 is something which I have never used, so I'll not be able to tell a use case for this. But Auth JWT is basically, which is I always use for most of the client. It is basically more secure, more reliable, and I'll say that the easy to maintain, because you have I'll say that just give a use case. Say that client wanted to use a certificate to authenticate to Salesforce whenever they are using MuleSoft. They also wanted to control which user can log into Salesforce, and they also wanted to control what will be the hours and what level of access that user want. Then you can use this auth JWT. And auth SAML is also the similar kind of things that you have got. I also haven't used this auth SAML, so I cannot give you the practical use case for that.
Yep. I hope it satisfies the answer, Parveen. Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks, Amit. Yeah, you can go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Pankaj. So now, as we have seen how to authenticate, how to connect with Salesforce, we will talk about a very basic operation, which is SOQL. That is basically Salesforce Object Query Language. That's what the acronym for SQL is. And SQL is basically used to query the records from Salesforce. So if you wanted to query a record, a single record, or you wanted to query a list of records, which we also consider that array of records from the Salesforce, we can use SQL, and you can store into a SQL database, or you wanted to make a call out to a different system like SAP, Oracle, AWS, Amazon, or any kind of system you want to send that data, you can send that. We can also fetch either all, or we can fetch the limited data that we have. We can specify using the some filters into the query. So if you see here, this is a very basic query which I have written just to fetch some all the accounts from the system which are there. There is no filter, nothing. So if we run this query, we will be getting what are all the account records inside Salesforce system. We will be able to get those here in our MuleSoft. Okay, and if you wanted to put some filters, we have to provide a different query basically that will look like this, where we have to put some filter on which particular field on an attribute we want to make a filter. So first we will see what is a basic SQL inside MuleSoft. And this is how the response will look like, because I have provided these fields. These are the only 5-6 fields which I have provided in my query. So if you see here, and then we will talk about how to actually fetch the specific record with the help of MuleSoft query, because most of the times we will be working with this query and not particular this query. Okay, so let's go to the MuleSoft again. So now we will again get back over here to the test flow first. So this is, let's say that this is very test flow. Okay, now what you want is, you want to go to the Salesforce and then you want to query a record. So you just click on the Salesforce. If you don't see the Salesforce over here, you can just go ahead and search for Salesforce, and what operation you want is query. Okay, click on over here, drag and drop. Connection leave it is, because we already have that connection set up. And here, this is something, a place where you can write a SQL query. Okay, now SQL query is something, if you want to learn more, I'll provide you the document. So you say that, okay, I want to select. Now what I want to select, like this, this doesn't works in Salesforce. So if I say select asterisk from account, that is not going to work in Salesforce, because this is not supported by Salesforce. So what we have to do is, we have to put specific attributes which we want. Okay, so say that I want ID, I want name, I want phone field, I want description.
Amit,
Then,
yep, just tape, sorry to interrupt. Like one or two members, I think they cannot see the screen. Okay, you just stop the sharing screen and share again.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Please. I hope Vidisha, like you should be able to view now. Okay, Amit is sharing again. I think then if you're not able to view again, then it's better to join again on the events, or maybe like some other, like you can close the browser session and join again. Yeah, thanks, Amit. Yeah, I can see your screen now.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
so basically I was saying that I wanted to select. Okay, I'll again repeat it. This is something, select asterisk from account is not going to work, because that is not supported. So I have to provide what specific attributes I need. So I'll say that, okay, select ID, name, let's say that I want phone field, description, industry. Now I'll tell you from where I am actually getting these fields, all these details. Okay, so this is the simple query which I have done. I'll just copy this query and get back to my Salesforce org. So when you are inside Salesforce org, you will see there is a gear icon. Just click on that and then click on this developer console. So once you click on that developer console, this is a place where you can execute your query, test if your query is working or not, and then you can use that query inside your MuleSoft. So there is a place called query editor. I'll click there, paste whatever I have copied, and then there is a execute button. So I'll click on that, and I will see that there are total 16 records for an account. Okay, for account object. Now you might be wondering from where I get all these fields like name, phone, description, and industry. So for that, again, get back to this gear icon, click on this setup. And from the setup, we will be going to a new thing, which is called object manager. Here, all the objects, if I talk in terms of SQL database, all the date tables will be here. Now, which object I want to query on account object. I will search for account. I will find which object is there. This is account. Now I will go to the fields and relationships. Here are all the fields which actually I wanted to query. Okay, so I don't need to use this label. I need to use whatever the API field name is, account number, site, owner ID, or account source. Say that I want owner ID as well. So I can just go ahead and put that over here. Now, here, if you see on the right hand side, there is something called input and output. So we are not able to see input and output due to this connection error. So we'll get back to our main flow, which is basically, this is query accounts. Okay, I'll replace the query which I have over there. As soon as I replace the query, you can see on the right hand side, it is trying to load the metadata from Salesforce itself. So what payload? It is going to be a type of any, it can be any payload. Now these are the attributes that we have got of our listener attributes. And then if you go to the output, what output we are actually getting is we are getting array of an object. And under array of object, these are all the fields which we are actually going to query from Salesforce, along with the data type, what kind of data type it is there. So that is how this is there, okay? Now, how we are going to test this is, the very first thing is that we need to create a listener. Because what an API is, basically API is nothing, it is a URL coded by coded by any developer. Okay, I'll just go off the topic for a minute over here. So say that if you go to, say that BBC News, okay, if you go to BBC News and if you open this URL, this is nothing, this is an API coded by a developer. So for this particular URL, they have coded like this is how the UI going to look like. If I change instead of news, say that if I change latest news, okay, it says that 404 because there is nothing that they have coded for this particular URL. So whatever the URL, or we'll say that whatever the API you're trying to access is, that is a URL coded by developer. It can be a public URL or it can be a protected URL. In case of protected URL, you might want it to basically authenticate the way that we did authenticated for Salesforce. Okay, so this is a public URL, and whenever you are hitting anything from the browser, that is actually nothing, is a get method. Okay, so first thing, we will create a URL. So to create a URL, there is something called HTTP. We have to drag and drop listener over here under the source. Okay, source is our listener. Now you need to configure the listener. We will configure it to a local host. Just click on plus and just do the connection. Whatever is there, it will just take that. Now, one thing that is important I would like to tell over here is, if any other process which is using 8081 as a port, you need to change this port to something else. For example, I'm changing it to a port to 4x9, and if I click on test connection, that is also going to work for me. You can also provide a base path, like if I say v1, you can provide that base path as well. You can again do the test connection, it is also going to work. And click on OK. Now you have got this listener. What is going to be path? For example, here you have got, this is basically your listener. Okay, bbcnews.com is bbc.com is a listener. If you click on this news, this is your path. Okay, so how you are going to do that? So for that, you have to provide a path over here. Let's say that we are going to query. So let's say that query. So this is your path and your listener is ready. If you click anywhere on the canvas, you will see there is no error for the listener. Now, if you wanted to access this listener, how you will access this? You just need to go ahead and click on plus icon. What is the base? What is your host? It is local host. So you have to say 127.0.0.1, and this is your port. That is how you will access. I'll show you how you can actually access this. So for this, we have got this query, okay? And then under that query, I have got the complete query. After that, I have used a transform message, which is going to transform from one, we'll say that file to the other file. So whatever we are getting, I'm just transforming into the JSON, so that whatever the output I will get in the form of JSON. I don't want in the form of XML or anything else. Okay. So say that you've just developed this particular simple flow. Okay, this is your simple flow that you have just developed. What you need to do is you just go to favorites and use this transform message. And under this transform message, by default, the output type is Java. It is going to display in the form Java, but we want in JSON. Now, what we want to display is we want to display the payload. So what you have to do is you just need to type payload, or you can just type whatever. Let's say that you type P and then you say control space. It is going to show you what all you can just go ahead and use that. So we need payload. So we will select that payload. Okay. So this is your simple test. Okay. You just wanted to run this. So just go ahead and click on run and select run project test Faridabad. This is the name of your project. Okay. We don't want to run this. We are going to run this. I'll just click on right click and run project. Okay. So I'm just doing the run over here. So what will happen is it is going to deploy this project internally for me. on the top of Java virtual machine. And there basically we will see it is going to take some time in order to launch our project. Once the project is launched, we are easily like going to test the query, which is very simple query. So let's wait for this, and it will be up very soon. And here in the console tab, you will be able to see every single thing that you have, like how it is actually working, what are the mule runtime, what are all the libraries that you have, what are all these, how much time it is taking. Every single thing you will see over here inside the log, and it is still running. You see the app is getting initialized now. There was a new app with the name which was Faridabad India Meetup. Now they are starting the application, and once that application is ready, you will see the application is started. These are the libraries that we have. If I show you the libraries of my project, you will see HTTP listener, Java runtime, mail server, Salesforce, and socket. These are all over here, and object store as well. Then it is saying that status is deployed. So if your application is basically okay and there is no error, your status will be set as deployed over here. If there are any error, it will say, I think, fail or some other status. Okay. Now, how we are going to test this is, first thing, let's find out what is our listener path. So I'll just go ahead and click on this listener path. I'll click edit. So I have got this. Okay, I've got whatever the interface I have, default localhost. My port number is 8081 and my base path is v1. Okay, so to test this, what I will do is I'll just go ahead into the browser. I'll say 127, okay, .0.0.1. This is my local host. Now what my port number is 8081. Okay, now what is my base path? It is v1. So I'll say v1. I'll just go ahead and click on cancel. Again, get back to the map, select the listener. What is your path? This is your SQL and account. So if you go ahead, copy that and paste it over here. If I hit enter, what it will do is it will try to connect to MuleSoft and it is going to give me the result. You see here, all these results I'm able to get over here. This is the information which is coming from Salesforce all the way. There is nothing not as such. Okay. If you get back to MuleSoft, go to the console. You might see here available listener. Okay, this is something SQL accounts. These are the available listeners that we can use. Okay, so that is how basically if we do this SQL accounts and all this, we are able to get over here. Now, if you wanted to use this test from a testing tool, basically there are multiple testing tools like Postman. So I'm going to use that. So for example, we are going to get all accounts I already have. So I'll just place the same thing which I have shown you. Okay, I'm not going to make any changes. Method is going to be get. Okay, and then click on send. Why this method is get? Because we wanted to get something from Salesforce. So we've got over here, you see everything. It is an array of object. This is an array, and this is a single object that we have got. Now, what industry is, what is the description, who is the owner, what is the phone number, what is the record ID, what is the type, what is the name. Every single thing you can see over here, we are able to get it. Now, this is like we are getting the complete information. Like we said, okay, our query is saying get all the account records. We are able to get all the account records. What if we wanted to get a simple account record where say that where name equal to S communications, or we say that we wanted to get all the records where industry is electronics. So how we can get that? So for that, we have to make a slight modification in our query, which is this. Now what we have to use is, we have to say, okay, we have got this up to this up to here. The query will be same. Okay, we want all this information from account. Now we have to tell the system, you need to pick only that account where name equal to, and this is the dynamic binding over here. We are not hard coding. Okay, we are saying, okay, where name equal to this particular name. Name is a variable which we are creating until parameters. We say this is our parameter is name, and this is how the name is going to be read. Okay, so now here I'll show you one more thing. I'll just go to BBC News again. So let's say that I'm going to video, or let's say I'm searching for something called cricket. Okay. So let's say I'm searching for, okay, sorry, I'll be here only. So if you see here on the URL, it is saying that, okay, this is my base path. Okay. like this is my listener, this is my base path, and this is my query parameter. Okay, like I have got cricket and I have got base. Like query parameter, it says q equal to cricket. So similarly, what we are going to say that we are going to pass name equal to cricket or page equal to 10, whatever we want. So these are the query parameters, and this is what we are going to develop in our API. So if we say we have got the same API which was 127, this is the so-called accounts. Okay. Now what we will do is we'll pass one more query parameter. We'll say that name equal to say that we want to pass edge communications. Okay. And we will hit enter. For now, it is not going to make the changes into the result. It is not going to impact anything because we haven't made any changes to this URL. Now what we will do is we will create one more listener for testing purpose. And there we will be using this name as dynamically. We will be reading this name from the URL and then using that inside our MuleSoft application. So this is what we have to do. So we'll just go get back to our MuleSoft application. This is basically, I have got query, where is that? Yeah, here it is. I'll show you. Every single thing is same as I discussed. The only thing that we have to do is we have to use a filter. We will say where, so okay, we will say select these attributes from which table, which is account. Now we have to say, okay, find out the account where name equal to, and make sure there are single quotes, and then you have got a colon, which is basically going to dynamic bind the variables and name. And this name is something which you have prepared over here under parameter. Okay. So you have to use this name. Now from where you will read the value of a name. So as we say that this is a query parameter, we discussed that, how you will get that. So if you go to the request attributes from the left, you see this is the input. We are not sending anything. We are not receiving any payload. We will just go ahead and click on this HTTP request attributes. Okay. Under that, we will get something called query parameters. Okay. Which is an object. And under that object, we will have our parameter, which is name. And this is what we are going to pass from our URL. If you pass anything else, we will not be able to make it work. Now what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and stop this project. I'll just show you one thing. Let me quickly put a break over here. I'll say add a breakpoint. I'll show you what value is there. Okay. So this time, instead of clicking on this run project, I have added a debug project. So what will happen? This time I will hit a URL from our Postman or even from our say that URL. We will be able to break our, we'll say that we will be able to stop our execution, and then we will come back to the MuleSoft Studio. We will see what values there in the query parameter, and then after we will again resume that execution. So it says that, okay, I'll click on yes. So basically this is how it is going to look like. I'll just go ahead and switch it to this main view. So we'll again wait for this application to be executed. You don't need to again stop and start, but I just switched to debug mode. That's why I had to stop and restart the project. Okay, now our project is deployed. Again, we will check for our URL. What URL is this? So we'll go to the listener. We had to find out what is there. So again, everything is same. Our base path is v1. Okay. We just need to change what our path is. So this is SQL account. Okay. So we'll get back here into the browser and we will say instead of accounts, it is account. Now in our query, what we are using? In our query, we are using query params.name. So it is in small, right? All letters are in small. So you have to use name as in small. And this is our edge communication. So if I hit enter, you can see here on the top, it is loading and loading. It will not give us the result unless we get back to our studio. It says that, okay, yes, we will switch preference. You see here, as soon as I switch preference, our application is basically stopped over here. So if you see here, we have got the query parameters, and these are the attributes. Okay, under attributes, what we wanted to look into is query parameters. If you see here, query parameters, Under that query parameters, what we have is we have got name, and name has edge communication. So basically, whenever we wanted to read the values from the URL, which is URL query parameters, that we can see here, this is what we have got. Now, if I go ahead and click on this run button, as soon as I click on this run, we'll get back to browser and we will see the exact result which we needed. Now, this time we are only able to see one account because there is only one account with the name as communications. That is how we provide the dynamic filter. Now you can have multiple filters. You can say, okay, I want where name is, or let's say that you want where industry is something, industry equal to education or electronics or anything. Okay. So if you say, okay, we have got industry is electronics. Now again, our browser is going to stop. We will come back over here inside our MuleSoft application. Okay. We will see what we have got attributes, then we have got under attributes, we have got query params, and then we have got same, now this time it is industry. Now if you go to and click on resume, we have got the error, null pointer exception, right? And if you get back over here, it is also not going to work. Because why this is null pointer exception? Because it is trying to query a record from Salesforce, and we are trying to query here in our query. If I go to the properties, let me show you what we are access is. We are saying, okay, let me switch back to this perspective. We are saying, okay, access, sorry, we are saying go to the attributes, under attributes find query params and then find name, but we don't have any name, right? Then it will have null. That's why we are getting null pointer exception. So we'll go to the debugger and we'll click on okay, resume. As soon as we do resume, we will get java.lang.null pointer exception. So if you don't have that particular attribute in the URL, you will get that error. To basically get rid of this error, you can use some other things right there in the query parameters. What you can do is you can say, okay, if there is nothing in the name, what you say is you use default, and what you can say as default as let's say that edge communication. If you use this as the default value, so what will happen? It will, okay, it will say if there is name, if not, then use default, which is edge communications. And then you can just go ahead and test it. So after making the changes, if you save, again your flow is going to do the hot deploy. Not every application, it will do the deployment of whatever you have made the change, and it will work in it, like it will up in very soon. Okay, so this is one thing about our query. So I'll just again stop here, Pankaj, if we have got anything related to query.
Yes. We do have a couple of queries. Okay. So I will start from Bhavya Siri. You are the host, and you can speak up your query.
Yeah, thank you, Pankaj. So, Amit, the query is that so we are fetching the records from the Salesforce, right? What would be the exact output form when we get from the Salesforce? Because I see here it is array of object and the payload you are converting into JSON.
Yeah, basically this is an array of object, but if you want to see the exact, what you can do is you can go to the MuleSoft application. You can use a logger over here. Okay, you say, okay, you have got a logger. Under that logger, what you want is you want type of, okay, basically you want the MIME type, right? Okay, I think
Yeah,
I have
okay.
to use function and say type of. The type of is right, Pankaj?
Yeah, yeah, O capital.
Okay, okay, type of, and then you have to use payload.
Okay,
So
okay.
what it will do is it will basically print what is the type of your payload is.
Okay.
Is it giving the error?
Payload spelling is wrong. Pay.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it should not give us any error now.
Can you this is in bracket, it will
Brackets, I think.
in brackets, yeah.
Okay,
Yep, in open brackets and curly braces, and then have the type payload.
like this.
Yep, yep.
Okay,
No, not this
No,
one.
normal brackets.
Normal brackets, yeah, small brackets.
okay. Basically, you are saying these brackets.
Yes.
But yeah, you got it right. What actually I'm trying to say
Yeah,
here.
yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yes, Amit, thanks.
so you can do that. Okay, any next question that you have,
But
Pankaj?
this is the output query type, right? Type of we will be getting the output results. So that is the type we are creating. Not the This is not the query type.
I think whatever this Salesforce result, right? Whatever this
Yeah,
particular
Salesforce result. Yeah,
valid,
Salesforce result
yeah,
is the yeah. And
Yep.
like what query we are passing to the Salesforce, so we can enable the Salesforce logs into the debug state, and then we can also see like okay, what query is getting going to pass to Salesforce.
Yeah, we can do that
We
also.
can enable those debug logs. Okay. Yep. Any other things, obviously, before I move to another candidate?
No, thanks. Thanks.
Thank you. Manisa, you want to go next? Just couple of questions. Okay.
Yep.
Um, are you there, Manisa? Uh, Manisa, maybe like you're not speaking on mute. So let me like have this first question. Like it's like instead of having like we need to pass, we can pass the start to fetch all the columns. Okay. So what is the best to fetch all the columns? Like do we need to mention all the columns that we need? Like suppose like 20 or 50 columns to query.
So yeah, basically, I'll say this is not. This will never be use case where you need to fetch all the columns. Okay. What is this? I'll remove this. Okay. You don't need to fetch all the columns, but if you want, what you can do is you say, okay, I'm not going to make changes here. I'll say, okay, make changes over here. You say, what we need is we need fields. Okay, what we need is all fields. Okay,
Mhm.
just go ahead and click on save. So there is some limitations for using this function, which is says that fields and all. So we will see if that works. If not, I'll tell you why exactly this is not working. So first of all, I'd like to try it because I haven't tried. So I'll just wait for this application to again work, like to get deployed. Okay, this is deployed now. I'll get back over here and I'll change my URL to back to accounts. So if it, yeah, it is in debug mode, I'll say no. I'll just go ahead. Okay, yeah, I think there was an error. I'll again hit it. Okay, it says that invalid aggregate function fields. So basically, I think we cannot use,
Field
but
spelling
again,
is not correct. Field
yeah,
spelling.
yeah, that's what I wanted to check. Fields in Salesforce, because I do a lot typo. Please forget that.
Can you check the fields spelling?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was wrong basically.
yeah.
So we'll again wait for our application to get started. But that is not like, I'll never suggest to use this way, because if you do this and you have got 500 800 fields, that is going to give you that much payload, right? Again, there is some size issue that is going to happen over here on the MuleSoft size.
And in between, like there is a like question like, are we going to explain bulk of upsert as well, or Salesforce composite connector?
That we will not
That is not
explain over here,
yeah,
but upsert we are definitely going to explain.
bulk upsert.
Yeah, that we are going to see.
Okay, okay, okay. And Salesforce composite connector, we might have the another meetup. Okay, but we are just covering the basic in this session, and then Salesforce composite we can try again.
Yeah. So if you see here, when you are trying to fetch all the fields, you must have to specify a limit. Let's say that whatever the limit is, like 1000 or 200, whatever you want. Okay. That's why it is giving us the error. I'll just go ahead and pause this application again and go ahead to make the changes. Let's say that we want only 10
Uh,
records. Okay.
there is also suggestion like we can use fields standard
That is
and
for only standard fields.
standard fields.
Yeah,
Okay.
if you have a custom field that you have created as a part of your own development, those fields will not come. So basically, there are three options. One is all,
Mhm.
then you have got standard, and then you have got custom.
Custom. Okay.
So if you need all the fields, then you have to use all. If you only need custom fields, you have to put custom. Or if you need standard fields, you have to put standard. But the question is like, if we are trying to, whenever I believe like most of the time we will be using all and all. I will show you how you can get the composite fields as well, or I might give you the resource, because there is a way to use some field function and then use the fields as well. So if you see here, this time what we are getting is for a single object, we are getting too many fields, right, up to here. So that way you can actually get the all the fields that you want. but I don't think in any of your use cases you might be using this, but that is something you have. And this is a method, like this is a document that I'm just sharing over the chat window, which also explain whatever all the things are there, right? How you can use the composite things over here under the SQL, like fields along with some more fields as well. Okay. I think Pankaj I'll go with create records and then we'll take it at the end or in mid.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Yep. So what we are going to do is we are going to create records in Salesforce, basically not a single record. We'll create multiple records in Salesforce. And as I said that it is a create record. So as its name suggests, there is nothing fancy behind this. We are going to pass some payload. Like what we will say is, okay, we are having a listener which is listening. We are going to pass some data over here. And then our MuleSoft is going to do the processing, whatever processing it is going to do, and it is going to create the record inside Salesforce. That's what we are going to do. A use case that I can say is, for example, say that you have you are doing the order processing inside Salesforce, inside a different system, but you want that status, like you want that order to be created inside Salesforce. So what you will do is you will do a SQL query from the database. You'll pass that query to the MuleSoft. MuleSoft is going to do the transformation of the way that Salesforce requires. Then it is going to use that Salesforce connector, and then the create record is going to call the okay. There are a few points we need to remember. Is number one thing is that the connection is working. There is a target object which must be there, for example account, contact, or anything. Input payload, it is always going to be the form of array, no matter if you are trying to create a single record. MuleSoft is going to do the processing, and then we are going to get the output payload, either a success or a failure payload. This is a simple screenshot of a flow that we are going to do is, so we will have a connection we already have set up. Then we will select what object we want. We will select account, what payload we want, okay, what information we want to send. And this is a very simple say. We have got the listener, basically the URL which we are going to hit. Then we are transforming. We are saying, okay, which field is going to map to which particular field on Salesforce account. And then we are again transforming so that we can display the form or output in the form of JSON. So let's quickly see over here. We have got a flow which is going to create a record. We have got Faridabad. Okay. So again, there is a listener. The very first thing we have got create what we want. We want to create accounts. This time the method we are going to use post. So for this particular, like we said, the flow, we don't want to use any other method like get or delete or anything. So for that, what we will do is we'll go to the advanced section from the listener itself, and for allow methods, we will just use post. We will not use anything else. If you want to use multiple, you will see how you can do is you can do using comma separated, like post, or you say that get, or you say put, right? That kind of things you can use over this allowed methods. Now under the advanced, under the metadata, we also need to define here what kind of data we are going to receive from the developer. Now this is something which where we have to define, say that you are trying to make a request. You will not be expecting anything, right? You will be expecting something in a certain format. Then only you will be able to parse that data and send it to Salesforce. If a developer sends anything, say that they are sending flat files or they are sending some XML files, which you haven't handled in your MuleSoft flow, then it is going to throw an error. It is going to lead into the errors, right? So that what we have to do is we have to define a certain format, the input format basically, which we are going to accept so that we can process that input and then we can send it to Salesforce. So to do that, we have to go to the first what we have to do is we have to just go to SRC test resources. We have to right click on new, and then we need to create a file. We need to create a file. Now, what kind of file we want is basically we want to create a JSON file because we want to accept JSON input from the users. So we'll say that acc.json, okay, and I'll just hit enter. Now what format is there? So we'll just go ahead use the Postman, okay, say that this is what the format I have. We want array, so I'll just prepare an array over here, and this is an example record. This is not the actual record, this is an example record, and I just can remove everything from the description itself. This is just a simple example. Okay, you can have multiple. You don't need the ID. because ID is something which is generated by Salesforce. I'm going to remove that. You might needed the owner ID, but I'm also not going to use that as well. So these are the few fields which I need. And there is one more thing which I can say is external ID, which we will be using in next demo. So I'm just putting that over here. Okay. So basically, this is the format that I want the user to send whenever they are consuming this URL for posting the accounts or creating the account inside Salesforce. Now we have got this acc.json file. We will get back to our input. We'll select listener, go to the metadata. Here we need to define what input we want to aspect. So by default, let's say that it is class. We have to click on add metadata. It will be output payload. That means what output we are going to give to the transfer message. We'll click on edit. Then we have to define a variable, say that we are clicking on add, just say that ACC, okay, or say that account records, create data type, create type, okay. We have just created a type. And now we have got this by default, this is type of string. What we will do is we'll just click on sample type and then select JSON. Now here we've got schema and then example. So we'll select an example. Just click on this browse. Okay. We have got under SRC, we have got test, then we have got resources, and this is our JSON. Just click, select that, open. It will parse the file and it will show you what all attributes you have given inside that JSON file. It has not, like, there is no mandatory things like you have to provide all the fields. You can provide a couple of things just to make sure that this is how your data is going to look like. And then click on select. Now you have got this user defined. If you see on the right hand side, you've got input. It says that payload by default it is unknown. For output, you see here, this is how your array of objects, and you've got every single field that you have defined in your acc.json. Now you have got this array of objects. What you need to do is, I'll just show you here. You have to use a transfer message because this is an JSON format. So you need to use transfer message. Let's say that you're using a transfer message over here. I'll just go ahead and delete this. Okay. So you have just used a transfer message. Now what you need is you need to go to Salesforce and then you need to create a record. So just drag and drop create over here. Now for this create, it is already taking the configuration that we have created. For type, this is the object we need to select. What we want to create is account. Here you will see all your objects which are listed or which are there in Salesforce. We will select account. Okay, this is account. Then what we want, what is the input, which is payload. Okay, whatever the records we have got. This is for create. Now we have to go to transfer message. We have input, we have Salesforce fields over here. Now for industry, to which field we want to map. So you have to say industry, drag and drop over here. So as soon as you do drag and drop, you will see this is going to write the code for you. You don't need to worry about that. Then you've got description. You have to map description. Then again, what you have is phone. You just have to map phone. Okay. What we need is type. So I'll just go ahead and map the types. Similarly, I'll just map for name and external ID. Okay. And then I have got external ID. So I have mapped all my fields that I need to map, and there is this is done. Now for the output, again I have to convert because I need that converted to be JSON. So I'll just again add a transfer message. Instead of Java, I'll use JSON, and I will just type payload, and that's it. After making the changes, I'll just go ahead and save this. As soon as I save it, it is going to do the hot deploy, and my application will be ready within a few seconds. So once that application is ready, we will see that it is deployed, and we will see what exactly the listener is, and after that we will test it. So it is deployed. I go to the listener. So it is create accounts. Okay, this is my path that I have. Now if I go, let me first show you. If I go to the browser and if I say I've got something called create accounts. Sorry, it is said no listener. Okay, I'll say create accounts. It was there. Now if you see method not allowed for endpoint, because from the browser it always try to hit a get method. In the metadata advanced, what we have given is it is going to accept only post method. Now to test this, we have to get back to our Postman, I have this create accounts, which is having every single thing which we needed, version 1 create accounts. I have got the body as well. I'm going to send 3 records over here. So I've got industry, phone, rating, type, name. I'm not sending external ID, but let's say send that as well. So it was like external ID. What external ID we want to send is, we can just put some random numbers over here. I'll tell you the concept of external ID. You don't need to worry about that. So I'll say, okay, now I've got these external IDs. Before I go ahead and execute this, I will show you is I'll go to my accounts, I'll Salesforce org, and I'll find accounts over here. I've got new this week is selected. I don't have any account over here right now, okay, which has been created this week. I will go ahead and before I go ahead and click on send. So it will go to MuleSoft basically as we have turned the debugger. Okay, what happens? Yeah, we got this here. You see here, we have got success as a 200. That means there was a success response. And this is the outcome we are getting. It says that successful is equal to true. And for all 3 records, we've got successful as true. If you get back to Salesforce, refresh this, you will see there are 3 records that you have got, 1, 2, 3. And all the information that we are sending from Postman, which is coming over here. So basically, this is how you can, how exactly you can create records. Now we are sending the records in the form of bulk. You can send multiple records. But if you have large volume of data, then there is something called batch processing that you need to implement whenever you are working with millions and billions of records. So this was about how to create a record. And then we have got another option which says that upsert a record. Okay. So upsert a record is basically, this is a combination of 2 operations, update plus insert. So what it does is, most of the times we usually use upsert in MuleSoft or any kind of ETL process like data integration process. Why we do use upsert? In order to make sure that the data is neat and clean and we are not dumping the duplicate data inside our system. It can be Salesforce, SAP, or any other remote system. Okay. So what upsert does is, in order to upsert, we need to send a unique identifier to the target system. In that case, this is Salesforce. So we will be sending a unique identifier to Salesforce. And what Salesforce will do is, it will try to figure out if that unique identifier is already there inside Salesforce for that particular type of object. It will make an update. If the unique identifier not found inside the object, it will create the record. So that's why it is the combination of 2 operations, update plus insert. So there are a few points that we need to keep in consideration. One is like always, upsert always use the concept of external ID. Okay. So external ID is basically the unique ID that we will be sending with the help of our request. Then it is going to either update or insert, and operation is determined at the runtime. We cannot determine either this will be an update or insert. The reason, because based on unique ID, Salesforce takes the decision. So here, how does it work is, if external key, which is external ID, is not matched with any of the record for the provided type, then it is going to create a new record. If it is matched, then it is going to update the existing records. If the external key is matched multiple times, then an error is generated and the object record is neither inserted or upserted. So basically say that if we are sending 2 records with the same external ID, it is going to throw the error. Again, this is a simple thing that you have got, like the process is same, the UI is same, the flow is same. The only thing that is different is the external ID field name. Okay, so you see here we've got connection, we have got object to upsert, we need the external key, and we need what data we need to upsert. So what we did for insert is going to be same, like provided what kind of input we want, and then doing the transformation message, doing every single thing. The operation will be upsert this time instead of create, so we had to use the external ID field name. Before we have to create an external ID inside Salesforce. To do that, what you have to do is, again, you have to go to the object manager. I have already shown you. If you forget, just click on this plus icon and go to the setup. And from setup, basically, you will be redirected to this page. Then select object manager. and from there you will find account. For us, account is there, the object we are working with. For you, it can be anything. You can search from the quick find box. Click on account, go to the fields and relationship, and then click on new. This is where I need to create a text field, okay, because this is what I want to store. Say that I have got a next, okay, I'll say that SAP account ID, okay. This is, let's say that I'm creating a field which is going to store the account ID of our SAP system. Length, I'll say that it is going to have 128. Now here, if you see, there is something called external ID checkbox. So if I check this checkbox, then I need to make sure that I'm then this field will work as an external ID for external system as a unique identifier, okay. And I just go ahead and click on next. Click on next. I'll add it to the account and I'll make sure I save it, okay. So that SAP account ID is the new field which I have created. Let's get back to our MuleSoft flow. We already have the flow which is there in place. Faridabad insert accounts, okay. I will show you metadata is already there. It's not there basically, so we had to add. So click on this, add metadata, and we'll select, okay, what we need is, we need to select listener. We haven't selected listener, so we go to metadata. We already have added that, okay. I'm using accounts because we had two types. If I click on edit, there is account records and there is accounts, so I'm using accounts, okay. And then for transform message, again we are doing the same thing. We're just mapping like external ID. I had to map one more field, which is SAP account ID. If that's not there, I had to do the refresh, okay. So how to do the refresh, I will also show you. To upsert, what you have to do is you just need to search for Salesforce upsert. And this is the operation that you just figure it out over here. Let's just drag and drop. This is the object. What object you want to upsert is account, okay. As soon as you select account, on the bottom you see there is something called resolving values, and there is a button called refresh metadata. So I just click on refresh metadata. It is going to refresh it from my Salesforce org. So I'll just go ahead and click on this drop down. Now I have got three things: external ID, the record ID, SAP account ID. So let's say this time we are mapping with SAP account ID, okay. And then this is what we have got. For data, we already have the payload. Now this payload, from where it is coming? From transform message. So we already have this external ID and everything is mapped. One thing we need to map is SAP account ID with the external ID, okay. So we don't have external ID here. So I'm going to say that field is not there, okay. Let's quickly go over here and I'll say SAP account ID _ C. What we are saying is find the external ID field on the column, on the layout, the input that we are getting actually. If there is no external ID field, add a default value, which is UUID is a function basically which generates the default unique value for us, okay. That's what we have done. So if I just go ahead and remove this upsert account now, I go to the transform message again, we can see that there is something like all the fields are mapped, okay. You see here all the fields are mapped for us. And then upsert account, and then go to the transfer message. Every single thing is there. Now, if we go to the message, to the console, our application is ready. Before we actually go ahead, what I will do is I'll go to this particular account, say that as communication 1 is my account, which I wanted to be there. And what I'll do is I'll use the same external ID for my SAP account ID. So what I'm trying to show you here is this particular account will get updated and just two accounts will get inserted, okay, because this ID is already there in the system. So now we have got these two accounts, okay. Let's add those values over here. So we have got this, okay. We don't have SAP account IDs for these two accounts. Now what our listener says that we are going to upsert SFDC upsert. So we will use the Postman again to upsert. We already have here. We've got SFDC upsert is everything is here. Now if you see for account, it is, I'm saying as communication MS, this is the name, We have got Burlington Textile Corporation of America, MS. MS is basically MuleSoft. For external ID, I'm sending whatever we have got, 001, and for one external ID, I'm going to use the same external ID which we had. So for one, there is a different external ID. Let's quickly have one more. And this is a different external ID again, and I'll say, okay, Burlington Textile Corporation. Okay, this is what we have. We have got 3 accounts. Out of 3 accounts, this is already there in the system. All these details will basically get updated. 2 are there, like external IDs there, which is different, and for this as well, external ID is different. I will go ahead and click on this send. I'll wait for the request to be processed, and it gives 200. Okay. If you see here items, it says that we've got ID as successful as true, and successful as true. Okay, so we have got basically for all 3 records which got success. We just go ahead and do the refresh. You can see here, okay, we have got there are only 5 records. Okay, 1 2 3 4 5. Out of 5, 1 is updated with the match criteria, which says that okay, this is what the account has been updated, which was edge communication 1, and then 2 new records which has been created, and these 2 has been these are untouched because we haven't made any changes. Okay, so basically this is how your upsert operation works inside Salesforce. Yep. Have any questions so far?
Yeah, we do have. So, like first question from the Binod Das, like, are we not making national ID as required? Like, national ID is required, or like, how do we take it?
So we are not making external ID as required because you are not sure, right? For all the records, you need external ID.
Okay. Okay.
Right? This is something like, say that whenever you are sending the data from MuleSoft, you need the external ID. But say that you're trying to create a record from here, from the UI itself, your users are creating, then you don't want the users to put the external ID because they don't have the information about external ID.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't need to make it required.
Okay. So, like for some of the objects, it might not be required, but if we can make it required, like if
We can make it, yeah. We can make it required, but if you make it required, then you must need to provide some value.
Some values, yes, right.
Yeah.
Thanks. There is one more question from Debu Singh for upsert, like how it will identify similar external key which throws error. So this question is not clear. Debu,
I'll actually do here. Okay. Let's say that I got the question. I'll show you basically. Let's say that this is the same external ID that we have got. Okay. I'm going to provide the same external ID for all 3 objects. Oh, sorry, all 3 records over here.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have got 3 external ID, like one external ID for 3 objects. It will throw us the error. Let's quickly go ahead, click on send. Okay, this is again giving the 200 response, but with the error message. You see here, it says the duplicate external ID is specified. This is particular external ID. And for all the records you will see over here. So what is the process behind the scene that I actually don't know what Salesforce does. Okay, but whenever you try to specify the duplicate external ID, it actually throw you the error, say that okay, and why it is doing so, say that Salesforce updated this record, okay, that went successfully. Now again for this particular record, Salesforce find the external ID as the same value. Now which record Salesforce need to update, either this one or this one? Similarly for this, there are already 2 records. Now which one Salesforce need to take? Which record is basically a master record? Salesforce is not able to identify, so they basically throw the error. But the process is not even known. That is something which is Salesforce handling itself from their side.
Okay, Amit, actually my question, it was like, when you said we are processing kind of millions of record and we are using batch processing, in that moment, like suppose in first batch we provided a record with the external ID, and the same external ID it exists in the next batch. So during that moment also it will throw error, or it gonna update it?
It is going to throw the error. So if you see here, right, in the runtime itself, I have a change, like this record was already there, but these 2 are new records, right? But it is giving us the error because for the first batch, when your first batch will execute it, the records are updated there in Salesforce. Now you try to run the second batch, the record is there, it will try to update, it will throw the error, even if the records are not there. Say that I'm just putting some random value over here, okay?
Okay.
Even if the records are not there, it will throw us the error and it will say, okay, there are duplicate values found. Because that's how Salesforce does work. It checks for all the records. You see here, duplicate external ID found. And this is not for the single record, this is for all the records.
Okay. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Amit. Yeah, there was one more question. I think audience is already answering the most questions. Okay, there was the question on UID. Okay, so that is already answered. There is one more question like from Vipul Jain. Amit, in next batch, it should update the record if same external ID is used because transaction will be different.
It will update if there is only one record with the same external ID. If there are more than one record, it will throw the error.
So it will it will not update anyone, right?
It will not update anyone.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I hope you got the answer, Vipul. Okay. Thanks, Amit. You can continue.
Yeah, thanks. So now, as we've talked about the very basic operations, we are going to talk about Apex REST. So basically, there are some use cases when you actually wanted to do some custom development from Salesforce side, like your external, whatever the standard connectors are there in say, MuleSoft, they are not basically, we say that you're not able to achieve your functionality that you want. At that time, what business ask is basically they say, okay, just go ahead and develop a custom API on Salesforce side. Because what we did so far on MuleSoft is basically we developed a custom API, okay, with the help of MuleSoft. Now, what Salesforce will say, okay, Salesforce developer will do is they will develop a REST API, okay. This is a you can access this REST API from any system which actually can do the integration. So once that method is basically developed, they have got the method like post, get, and put, delete, or patch. These kind of methods are there in the class. Now there is a requirement you need to access that method with the help of your MuleSoft. How you will do that? So basically, for doing this, there is already a standard collector in MuleSoft which says that okay, invoke the Apex REST. Now the only catch here is how you prepare the URL to invoke the Apex REST. Okay, so that's how you are going to prepare. This is your class name. It can be anything like MuleSoft or say that order manager or order service, account service. It can be anything. Okay. The method name is something that you have to provide. For example, your method name is get account details. You have to provide method name. Then you have to use this and you use this sign and then /, then URL mapping. I will show you what this URL mapping is and where it will be. Then again, you have to this sign, then request type, either it is HTTP post or HTTP get. Then what is the return type? It can be void, it can be a string, list of a string, or it's a custom data type from Salesforce like some classes. Okay. So for example, our method name is get account contacts. Our URL mapping is account contacts. Our request type is get, and our return type is string. That is how we are going to use over there. Now, before we go ahead and actually do implement here in MuleSoft, I'll show you the custom Apex that I have developed as part of this demo. Okay, so I have developed a class basically, which is, I believe, MuleSoft something. Let me show you here. This is not the one. Sorry, I'll show you here. This is account manager. Okay, account manager is the class. This is the URL mapping that I was talking about. So whatever the URL mapping you give, so like REST, custom Apex REST is something which requires custom development from Salesforce side and requires knowledge of integration. So I'll not go there. I'll just tell you the basic things that you need, like URL mapping. As a MuleSoft developer, you will be using this URL mapping. You will be needing the name of your class. You will be needing what method is, what is the request type, either HTTP delete or HTTP get or HTTP post. Okay, and then you will be needing what is basically the return type, either list of accounts or in that case it is a string. In this case it is void. Okay, how you do that? Here we are going to prepare this HTTP get, which is going to use get account methods. Then this is the simple query that we are getting the accounts. Now to do that, there is one more we'll say that trick that you have to do in your Salesforce connection is say that where is that? Yeah, here it is, invokes Apex REST. Again, we have prepared a listener which is just doing SFDC MuleSoft is a path. Invoke Apex REST is something that you can search for for Salesforce connector. You've got invokes Apex REST or invoke Apex SOAP. there are two types of API you can develop as a Salesforce developer, either REST or SOAP. You have to just drag and drop over here, say that invoke Apex REST. Then you have to say what kind of request you want. If you are basically processing a GET request, you can just use a simple method, which is basically okay. So just simple curly braces. Okay. Then what is the class name? So you have to give it over here, account manager. Then what is the method? So you will see all the methods are already there. So say that we want get account. So if you select, it will automatically prepare what we have actually seen over there in the presentation, right? How we actually prepare. Like get accounts is a method. Get accounts, our URL mapping, the request type, and then the return type. Okay. Now one thing, I was able to see the class over here, right? I was able to see the class, but because you will not be able to see the class, because I have made one thing in my connection. If you click on this edit, go to the connection and do the edit, and then go to Apex, I have selected fetch all Apex REST metadata as a true. By default, it is set to false. So if you want to work with the Apex REST, you need to make sure that you have set to true for this particular settings under Apex. Okay. Once you select this, then only you will be able to see this particular, which we are able to see, like account manager and whatever we have done. And for input, basically you need to pass like this. You need to just tell what is the MIME type of output, like JSON and all, and that's okay. So you just click on OK, save, and then this application is going to again revalidate the changes so that it tell us either there is a success or error. So once it is done, it is basically going to give us the error and success. So it is here, right? We are successfully deployed. If you go there, I already have like Apex REST, which is a get method. So if you see here, the URL is same like SFDC and MuleSoft. And I'm not sending anything. I click on this send. And you see here, this is the get accounts output. This is how basically it's going to render get account output. And these are the values that you are basically getting from Salesforce as a query. Now these are two things which we are getting as a extra things. Basically, this is basically the standard part of Salesforce, which gives us what kind of type is, what is the object, and what is actually the URL for that particular record in Salesforce. So if you see here, all the records that we have got over here are coming as a part of custom Apex REST as well. Now, if you are sending somebody over here, say that you've got a post method, say you've got post method, we are sending name, phone, and website. Okay, and then we are inserting and we are returning, let's say that instead of a string, we are returning that particular account itself. Okay, I'm just giving the same. Now we've got three parameters: name, phone, and website. So how we will make sure that we are sending that? So what we will do is we'll get back to our application over here. Let's say that we are again invoking an Apex REST method over here, and payload will make sure we are doing the same way. I'll just change that later on. So here what we will do is we'll basically use what we have is we have got name. So let's say that we are having MuleSoft, and then we have got phone. It can be anything. Okay, let's say that I'm sending +1 602. And then we've got website. Okay, I think a website is something, I'll say that's what I have over here. This is website, and okay, yeah. Now we have just prepared. Okay, one thing that we need to do over here is we need to use that MIME type, basically the DW headers. I'll just copy from here. Paste it over here. Now we have to again get back to a connector. We have to select which class is this. Again, the class is account manager. What method is that? This is do post. Okay, it is still saying okay what return type is there. We might have to refresh the metadata in order to make sure that we are getting the correct, because if we don't refresh the metadata and the method is not corrected, we will get the error. So that's why I'm just doing the refresh metadata, and once it is done, we will again see what exactly the outcome of that particular method is. For now, it is saying, okay, this is not doing anything. Okay, let's wait for it. Yep, it's done. So again, I'll select account manager. From the drop down, I'll select do post. Okay. For the output, if you see here, okay, we've got do post and then do post output, and these are all the details that we're getting for that particular account. Now, again, what we have to do is we just have to go ahead and click on save. We'll just wait for the console, wait for our application to up and running. And in the meantime, if you have any questions, Pankaj, I'm ready to take those.
Yes, Amit. We have question from Vinod Das. Vinod Das, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, thanks, Pankaj. So, Amit, very good afternoon. So, my question is
Good afternoon.
related to batch management, batch processing. So, if consider that there is millions of record we are going to process, and while processing, one of the record got failed in between. So, what would happen to remaining records? They will be considered for further processing, or the entire processing will halt till we resolve the issue?
I think they will be considered for the further processing, right, Pankaj? In the batch apex, we have an option to get failed and
Yeah, so batch is the separate one. Vinod Das, like your question is related to the create record or upsert record. Okay, batch processing, like we
So,
need to program like that. Okay, like do we
mhm.
want to process the whole batch or do we want to terminate the batch? Okay, so your
Okay.
question, like you're doing the batch processing for the create records or upsert records.
Absurd.
Okay, so for the upsert records, if something is failing, okay, then you can program like that. If you will be having like in the batch size, okay, so you need to
Mhm.
program it like that. Like if suppose like one set is going on and some records are failing, then you can make it like some records is getting failed. Okay, you can program like that. Okay.
Okay.
And like you will get the batch, you will get the job ID, and from the job, from the job ID, also you will get like how many success records are failed and how many
Okay.
records were successful.
so
Okay.
basically in the batch processing there is a mechanism what you want to do with the batch, either fail or you want it to process with the next set of records.
Yeah, so I have used the Salesforce bulk API. Okay, that I am uploading the millions of records, and some records are getting failed. Like suppose like fives. Okay, so I am getting that job ID, and I'm going to the job ID, and then I'm getting to know like why these five records got failed as well. Okay, so these things
Okay.
you can check. Yeah, but you need to
Okay.
program your use case scenario either by the batch or either by the Salesforce. Okay,
Okay.
for
Okay.
having,
Thanks.
yeah.
Thanks, both of you.
Thanks. So our
Yeah, go ahead.
application is up and running. We can just quickly go ahead and click on this send. Okay, this time we should be able to see a do post output, and you see here there is an account got created with this MuleSoft, and if you go there in Salesforce, you'll be able to see, okay, new this week. I'll just refresh this, and you see here there is MuleSoft account with the phone and every single thing is here. So basically, if you wanted to pass the values, you can pass that values that way with the help of your uh, payload parameters that you want. Yeah, yes, Pankaj, please go ahead.
Yeah, Amit, we have a next question from Prasant. Like, as we have the Salesforce Apex API, so can we use HTTP requester as well instead of Salesforce connector?
You can definitely use that.
Yeah, we can use that. Okay, thanks. And there is one more question from Vipul Jain. Vipul Jain, you are on. Like, can you access the mute mic? Okay, let me read his question. Vipul Jain is in next batch, it should update the record if same external ID is used because transaction will be different. If there are multiple, then it will fail. Okay, so
I think
Bipuljan,
I have already answered this answer, right? Answer this question.
so Bipuljan, please repeat your question if you're satisfied. If not satisfied, please repeat. Okay. Yep. Yeah, this was discussed, Bipul. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks, Bipul. Thank. Yeah, Amit, you can go ahead. So,
Yeah, thanks. So this is going to be the last part. I know it has been more than 90 minutes. We are on the call. So just a last topic that we have is platform event. This is the event-driven architecture, very important concept. Most of the time we are using this. Okay. So platform event is basically used to, we say that near real-time integration with a system, which can be Salesforce, which can be AWS, Heroku, Amazon, or any external system, right? So I'll give you a very basic example where we can usually use platform. Say that you are actually working on a order management project, where what you do is whenever the order is basically, say that whenever the order is created inside Salesforce, you wanted to send it to the external system. Okay. Now this external system is basically doing the order processing. They are like they are sending it to the warehouse team. They are doing the to the fulfillment team, then shipment team. That's what they are actually doing that, right? Now, whenever the delivery boy went to the deliver order, or even without before delivering, there are multiple status for an order to be sent, right? So that order is ready to ship. So what usually you see is, as a customer, we usually receive an email or message like your order is ready to ship, your order received, or your order reached to this particular courier point. So these kind of things, basically what they do is they fire a platform event, and that platform event is basically being listened by their application, which can be their mobile application or their Salesforce application. And from there, they are actually sending the emails and messages. This is the one use case which I have told you about, the platform event, but there will be a number of use cases you will be working with your projects. Now that's what it is saying, that use platform events whenever you wanted to connect your business process in Salesforce and the external applications. And that is basically for near real-time change. Like you change the order status, you want that to be populated inside Salesforce. Salesforce is going to send the messages and email notification to the users. Platform events are basically scalable and more secure. We can do encrypt and decrypt of our input payload that you wanted to send. And there will be like publishers and subscribers, which we will be basically publishing and subscribing the event in the there are some key terms which are included in the event driven architecture. One is the event. So basically, in which event we wanted to trigger the data, like it can be a DML, it can be an update, or it can be any other things. Event message is something which is basically the message that we wanted to process, whatever the message that we wanted to send, like the order status has been changed. Event producer, it can be Salesforce or it can be external application which is producing the event. Event channel, the channel by which basically our event is going to travel, it is also known as the event bus. And we say that sometimes platform event is again the event channel. Okay. And event consumer, it can be your external application, it can be your Salesforce, or it can be any mobile application which are consuming that events. So this is basically also known as publish subscribe model. So basically publish model, we are publishing data. We say that we are publishing some event and the consumer is subscribing that event. Okay. Let's say that the Salesforce is the system one. Okay. That is publishing an event called event A. And then there is an event bus which has multiple channels. Okay. Channel A, sorry, it has channel A, it can be channel B, it can channel C, right? The channel A has multiple events like A2 and A3. Then A2 is going to send to MuleSoft, A3 is going to send to say that Amazon or any other system, right? So what it is doing is basically Salesforce is sending, let's talk about A2. Salesforce is sending an event A, then A2 is going to send to MuleSoft, MuleSoft is listening, doing the processing, and then sending back to the event bus, and Salesforce will say, okay, I've got the event. Then A3 is being sent again, it is sent to Amazon, and then this Amazon is doing the processing that they want, and then it is again going to send back to Salesforce. Now in our case, let's say that system 2 is basically sending the event A. Then channel through, what it is going to do is it is going to send to Salesforce, and Salesforce will do the processing. Similarly, if system 3 is sending the event A, it is going to get back to Salesforce and it is going to do the processing. So you see here there are some what I've got is something, this is the legend publish, and this is for subscribing. Okay, so that is how basically your publish subscribe model works. Now this is a simple again order management flow, and that I try to put over here is we are basically creating the order. Let's say that we are creating the order inside SAP system or inside say that Salesforce. We are getting an order, the order is created. Then we are checking if the order status has been changed inside Salesforce. Let's say that order status changed to awaiting shipment or pending fulfillment. If the order status is changed, then we are going to fire a platform event. Once the platform event is fired, there is a listener in the MuleSoft side. This MuleSoft is going to listen the listener. It is going to send that update to the SQL warehouse. SQL warehouse is going to send the email to the customer and messages, and then the flow is going to end. If the status is not changed, it is basically going to end the flow. Okay, so that is how basically this is a simple flow of order management that I have just described. Now this is published. This is a simple flow that we have already developed. Subscribe channel listener is something which is a standard listener provided by Salesforce connector in MuleSoft. Transform message is basically we are just transforming the message. We are not doing anything, and then we have got a logger to see. Okay, we have got the details. That's it. So let's quickly get to the MuleSoft. The last thing that we have got, subscribe platform event. Okay. For this, we will be needing an event in Salesforce side, and I will show you how to create that event. Even you don't need to create, you will be given that event. You will be given every single information about the event. One thing that you notice a different over here, if you see there is a listener which is at the source, but this time there is a event listener. Okay, subscriber channel listener. Now what is the difference here? We are actually doing the manual. Okay, we are doing either our code is hitting the URL, we are preparing the URL. Here what is happening is it is like the platform event is our source. So as soon as a platform event is raised by any system, this particular flow is going to be executed. Now if I click on this event listener, this is like if I click on this drop down, I will see what are all the platform events which are listed for my Salesforce org. So I have listed a platform event which is MuleSoft __ E, and I have selected that. Now what I did is in transform message, I have used nothing. I just say, okay, convert that message, whatever we are getting, to the JSON format and do the log. I've just put a logger over here that is going to log into my console. Okay, there is nothing. I will just save this flow. And after saving this, I'll get back to Salesforce. I'll show you the platform event. So for that, you have to go to the setup and home. And here we need to search for platform. There is something called platform events under integration. So just select that platform events. If you need to create a new event, you select okay, new event. You can give any name. So let's say that I'm saying Faridabad MuleSoft. You have to give the plural label. You can use same thing. Okay. There is two things like publisher behavior, publish after commit or publish immediately. Okay. So publish immediately is something we wanted to publish the platform event no matter what is the outcome of the transaction. Okay, so you create a record, the event is published. Like say that I update the order record and event is published, and then there was an error. Okay, that's no problem. Event is already published. But if you select publish after commit, that what it is going to do is you update a order record. There are some processes which are running behind the scene. The process will complete, then only this platform event is going to be fired. So most of the time, like based on our use case, we usually define which we are going to use. I will select publish immediately and click on save. So this is a simple like platform event we have created. Now what data we want to send? So for data, we have to create some attributes which are known as fields. So I can say new, and what type of fields you want. Let's say that you want to send text area, which is a long field. I'll say that, okay, I want to send a message, click on save, and I have just created one field. But for our purpose, we are basically using this MuleSoft platform event, and this has two fields. One is the ID and one is name. Okay, so by that time our application is ready. So just to test this, what we have to do is basically just to test this, I'm just showing you how you test it. So what you have to do is this is basically the code that we usually use to manually fire the platform event, but there are various ways that we'll be firing the events. So you don't need to actually worry about how they will be telling you the process. Like I told, right, on the creation of account order or creation of updation of order, the event will fire. So that setup will already be there. You just need to go there and create a record, and then that's okay. Okay. For this, I will just going to manually execute this. So I'll just execute event. I have executed the event. I will get the data over here inside MuleSoft. You see here, all the data is here. This is the scheme. This is a name, the custom field created by who did created, when the event was created, what is the ID, about the event as well, like replay ID and event UUID as well. So that is how basically your platform event-driven architecture work in Salesforce as well. And this was the last part of my demo. There are a lot operations in Salesforce connector. If you see here, there are multiple things, huge amount of data, as we said, that huge amount of connectors to learn. So I will strongly recommend, please go ahead and try out these connectors. And if you have any questions, you can definitely reach out to me or Pankaj. There are a number of people who are doing good for the MuleSoft community. So with this, I will pause for a minute or two, and then we'll take the questions.
Yeah, Amit, there is one question from Prasant. Can you go back to your implementation and like they're asking like if like there are the two workers and the two workers are listening on the Salesforce topic. Okay, so they want to run on the one worker only instead of. So how we can do it? Okay,
Sorry, which I actually didn't get the question.
so like we have the Salesforce topic, like Salesforce topic, like then this
That is a different
implementation
thing,
is
yeah.
running on the two workers.
Okay.
Okay,
Two
so how
workers
you make
means
sure?
MuleSoft workers?
Yeah, you want to make sure like you're running only one worker instead of because like two workers are running in parallel, then it might duplicate the things. Okay, so how we can do that? Okay, so can you go to the Salesforce listener that you have applied in the source? Okay, there is a one option in advanced section. Yep, Salesforce topic. Go to advanced on the left side. Yep, yep. So this is the option primary node only. Okay, so if we check this, so this will be running only one node. Okay, if you uncheck, this will be running on two node, and that may duplicate your effort. And for that you need to make sure like you have proper code and you are having the try catch and the proper you're making that duplicate check before inserting any operation. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Pankaj. I didn't know this.
uh, can you enable? Yep, sure, Prasant, I'm making you one enable. Just a minute. Prasant, so there's more query coming from Prasant. He's joining. Prasant, your mic is on. Can you speak?
Yeah, sure, Pankaj.
Yeah.
So, Pankaj, my question is actually,
Mhm.
let's say we want to achieve concurrency, and since it's an API which supports streaming, we can essentially publish a large number of events on that. So that's the reason we are deploying it on multiple workers so that we can achieve concurrency. So that was my question. Actually, this was asked to me in an interview, and
Mhm.
I gave the same like
Mhm.
you can like the primary node also
Mhm.
only, but they asked like you at the same time you want to achieve concurrency. So yeah.
Yep. So for that, like I just mentioned, like you need to uncheck this, okay, and like then we need to have something before inserting any source Salesforce. You are making sure that you are checking again, that same data is not getting inserted. You can use the item potent as well. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those things you need to do custom check. Okay.
So we'll need to store the hash inside an object store in that case. Like
Yep. Maybe that can be the custom or before any Salesforce check, you're again making one more check, like we do for the data transaction commit, right? So before
okay.
any
Okay.
object committing, you are again checking and having the lock as well. Okay, so those things will be suggested. Okay, there might be like more different integration design patterns to solve that problem. Okay, that we need
Okay.
to go to like best is the recommendation on the MuleSoft. Okay, in the MuleSoft forum you can go and you can find the article. Okay, that will be describing like how you need to handle the transaction management. We will
Okay.
also have in the next meetup for the transaction management. Okay, that yeah, we can also plan to answer that. But you can I hope you're understanding. Okay, either by
Yep.
this
Yep.
configuration or by the custom configuration for the transaction management.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Or like you
Yeah.
can also do like whatever you're listening on the two workers, then you're having your internal queue again. Okay, and then from internal queue you are taking the data from one primary node only. Okay, so that is the different ways to handle the issues.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, any more question guys from this team?